This is day 1,500 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss, and I'm burning the midnight oil. Um, Holiday weekend. Hope everyone is doing well. We had an amazing day today. More and more people are coming forward. We're getting more and more information. Of course, we have been writing this book about Richard, about the premeditated murder of our son, a soldier, a whistleblower on Fort Bliss. They withheld the information that Richard was a whistleblower. There is absolutely no doubt. It is totally corroborated, and the evidence overwhelmingly declares Richard a whistleblower. He was retaliated against, reporting to IG, to FBI Houston, to CID. He wanted to be a CID agent, right? He wanted to be a CID agent. Now, does that fit? The truth fits. The truth fits. Of course, he's going to report um, criminal trafficking, which includes hurting children, trafficking children. Um, was there a lot of trafficking going on there in El Paso on Fort Bliss? Yes, that's the home of the Emergency Intake Center. You have hundreds of thousands of children that are unaccounted for being exploited and trafficked, and they're unaccounted for now. They're unaccounted. See, you know that they're trafficked. You know that they're being exploited because they're unaccounted for. And you're talking about not 100 children, which would be one child is a travesty. Not 100, not 1,000, not 10,000, not 100,000. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of children. And I wish I could go through the numbers, just listing numbers and counting, because I think that we need that to get ourselves to understand the level of criminality that was going on there, is going on there, and everything that backs up that Richard was whistleblowing. We know that Dallas Hart was looking for his child pornography. We know that Leilani Hart, in a notarized FBI affidavit, confessed that there was child pornography in her home. And we know that there was an incest problem, long, decades long incest problem, and even the assault of a minor, of a 7-year-old, in her master bedroom by multiple members of her household. That was a dependent of a service member. We know who it is because it's in the affidavit. Um, and she was bragging about this affidavit, and the affidavit was submitted on the 22nd of July 2020. That is very important in the whole timeline. And we're going to start overlaying other events that were happening at the time in El Paso, to present to everybody. It's part of this book. It's part of telling what we know, being transparent, what we know. And it really does show what was going on with Yvonne Rosales, totally in connection to what was going on in Richard's case. It really does give you a much better understanding in how the cases, including the Walmart mass shooting case, are all connected. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. So there I'm on. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. And of course, we have turned in all of this information over and over again, hundreds of open records requests and letters and emails and criminal complaints and everything. Um, we shouldn't have to go through that. Uh, but here we are. Here we are. We were made the investigators, so we turned it all in. And then the latest, there's so much of the latest because more and more people are coming forward. And of course, we had the confession of Leilani, the confession of John Briggs, that we had to go through. And you might say, oh, why do you call it a confession? I've had some questions like that. Well, because when people speak, they let you know where they're coming from and they let you know what's going on. You have to, the latest from Leilani Hart is, I call it a crisis in lies. But for everything you say, there has to be a basis, right? A basis where that's coming from. And so we've had that communication analyzed and we've reported it. The same thing with what's going on with John Briggs, who you might not know who he is, but he is the assistant district attorney that for years has been the lead assistant district attorney in the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office, which is El Paso. Um, is in charge of capital murder cases. So he was absolutely firsthand right there with the Walmart mass shooting and of course with Richard's case. And the uh, the media and the PAO and everything do not want to let you know that Yvonne Rosales was looking into Richard's case, but absolutely she was looking into Richard's case. And when you see, we had to corroborate it, right? We had to make sure that before we tell the public this, that it was true. And so we've been really investigating that. So it was not only for her wanting to move and have a court case for the Walmart mass shooting and and uh, get that all out in the open, all the evidence out in the open, have it in the court, right? Not only did she want to do that, and we know for sure she wanted to do that, she just mentioned it and they just went crazy because they do not want this to go into a court where people can listen, right? And get the information. And I'm going to tell you some of my thoughts from what we've discovered and the reasons for that in this live stream. And I wish that I had so much time and I could put up all these pictures and get all that organized. I watch some of these podcasters and they're just so amazing. But uh, they're not having to write letters and letters and letters and open records and file everything and put everything together. So our job has been compounded. And so I'm just very happy to even be able to come on and do these podcasts every day, which are very, very necessary. And maybe I'll, be able to, um, organize some kind of better presentation with some experts because this is where this is going. I hope everybody realizes that this is just getting started. You're talking 4 years in, but because of the declaration of death, which is an admission that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss, because in order to have a declaration of death, that is a death certificate, you have to have the place where, they had to have something, right? And we know we gave them all this stuff to declare Richard deceased. And in that paperwork, it says Fort Bliss. And so, this is a military installation, and you just can't, just die on a military installation. with all the cameras, with all the security, with all the searches, with all the dogs, with all the whatever, everything, and there's no remains, right? And there's no remains. So absolutely, he was murdered. That's just one little bit of corroborating evidence. We have so much more, and the prime suspects, of course, are Dallas Hart, Leilani Hart, and um, Tavita Nusa, CID agent Tavita Nusa. I would say, you know, there's others. There's others too, but those are the three main prime suspects. And so, that was just a huge beginning. That was uh, a an amazing day. Very painful for us, but an amazing day and the start of now getting accountability. Okay, because they admitted that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. No doubt. And so now, really putting together all of the evidence and evidence that we might have overlooked, going back to the beginning of the investigation, which was September 1st, 2020. And really I think it was the 2nd of September, the 1st of September, when Jay Pollan got on and gave out his opinions on things, was the day that the investigation started and Richard was officially labeled AWOL, believe it or not. Um, so then they were looking for him, right? Um, and then, of course, 2 days later, well, the day after that, CID had called us to let us know that they were that Richard was back on the rolls. So the first, during this holiday season 4 years ago, is when the investigation started. And then today, September 2nd, um, here we are, where they notified us that he was back on the rolls. And that was the day that the PAO called us and threatened us. You know, what the PAO, Allie Payne, connected to Nick Nofziger. Okay, they're they're at Walt Disney together, right? In that program, I think so. Yeah, this team. Um, Maybe I'm wrong. I know they absolutely worked at that time very much together. And my memory, I'm just want to be 100%, but I know for sure 100% that they were working together. And that was the day that the smear campaign began on Richard, and absolutely up to no good. And I remember sharing that conversation with our military friends, and they overwhelmingly agreed she should be fired, with that conversation that we had on the phone. And now, knowing that we are a Gold Star family, and the way this Major General Taylor, Kirk Taylor, um, he needs to be stripped. Absolutely. They Richard's case is so big that they don't even know how to conduct themselves. This is the problem. Um, they just don't know how to conduct themselves because it exposes so much, um, so much. And and you can hear it in my voice, I'm sure. Um, and I'm not ignorant to the fact of how big this is. It's an international case. They had 15 plus agencies, um, you know, participating in a dog and pony show, you know, to mislead us and everything. So this, they were just saving their butts big time. I mean, you're talking about 15 plus agencies coming together for a dog and pony show, out of uniform with no operational order, you know, but you can tell it's, uh, I just would have, well, I should have all of those open records, right? Of all those conversations of how they organized that. Um, but the good news is we do not believe that the order to murder Richard came from Washington, D.C. We believe it was really that criminal network in El Paso. And the reason why we believe that, one of the reasons, or several reasons, was Ted Cruz's letter. I don't think he would have ever written a letter like that, if this was a Washington D.C. hit on Richard. But that's, just that we have to think that way, and that we had to write the CIA, that we had to write repeatedly the FBI, the whole El Paso intelligence community, that, we had to um, acquire FitFam El Paso LLC to be able to confirm uh, the breach in security over and over again. I mean, that's what that's for. We absolutely have that evidence that there is a huge breach in security. And that means that there's dereliction of duty on so many levels, so many levels. So this case is really big, and we're not ignorant to it. We think about the children that have been trafficked. We think about the drugs that are trafficked, the child pornography, of course, the weapons, and of course, the bullets being trafficked. And we know that FBI agent Nadal Baem, now they tell us, oh, he's not an FBI agent. Well, why didn't they arrest him? Why hasn't he been arrested? Because he absolutely presented himself as an FBI agent. That means he's an imposter, right? Then they needed to arrest him and let us know. He wasn't just a nobody. He wasn't just harmless. He is someone really big. And them lying to us and lying to our face and having meetings and lying to us and lying to us again. And we had a specific meeting with the general and the team um, to address. The specific meeting was just to address who was the masked FBI agent, and they knew that we were relentless in investigating who this, harmless, oh, he's nobody, he's just following your Facebook person is. They knew that we were not satisfied with their lies, that we knew that they were lying to us. And we did not realize how big they were lying to us, because Nadal Baem, he is somebody. He's somebody, and he's somebody big. Um, and not big in the sense of a Goliath or whatever, but connecting a lot of dots, collecting a lot of dots with the LLCs, with Richard's Mercedes. Um, yeah. And also with the Walmart mass shooting. And that's what that's okay. We know for sure. I want to make sure everyone knows where we're going because, they watch. Um, it's those protecting themselves that watch this. And they need to know that we have turned in all of this, right? Um, and that we are getting more and more support. And we know that there is a huge problem with the bullets and the forensics of the bullets at the Walmart mass shooting. We also know that Richard's case came before the Walmart mass shooting case, and that the Walmart mass shooting was orchestrated. And we know that Patrick Crucius did not act alone. We know because of Glendon Oakley Jr.'s whistleblowing. He didn't even know he was whistleblowing. He didn't really official whistleblow, right? He just was talking on CNN to Wolf Blitzer. He was just telling what he saw. He was so sweet. Oh my gosh, he was so sweet and so excited in a, it's like something terrible is happening, but you can save a couple kids. You can be of help. You know, the feeling of being of help in a disaster is gratifying, right? Instead of just standing by and letting the disaster happen, to be able to help is 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 a good feeling, that you're not helpless, that you are actually helping. And so when you watch the video of him, which I've watched over and over and over again, that's the spirit I got from him. Is he knew absolutely this is a disaster, that he is military, that he's military trained, that he was so happy to be military and military trained, that he could use his training, that he was packing, that he had a gun, that he could defend children, that and this is his words, and it's a little bit offensive, but he said that the parents left the children. The parents left the children unaccompanied, and they were running all over the place at the mall, and that there were gunshots in the mall, and he wasn't just gonna, hide behind a gate, closed gate in a Foot Locker. He opened the gate with who he was with, and I think a couple others left, and he was going to go help, and he was going to grab some kids, and he wished he could grab some more kids. And in that time of helping, he saw a group dressed in black with M4s, right? And he called them mall cops because they were all they were in uniform, right? They were in uniform. They were all in black with M4s, and he even said it, that those are military weapons. Usually they're military weapons. Now, are they only military weapons? No, I get, but for the most part, they are military weapons. It's what the military uses, and law enforcement, right? And if I'm wrong, if you know something more, then please let me know. And those weapons require bullets, right? Those weapons require bullets. And those bullets, can be green tip bullets, because those are armor piercing bullets, right? They can go through steel. And then you have the brown tip bullets that are not registered. And this is really, really important, because to understand forensics, to understand what was used at the Walmart mass shooting, would come out in a trial. And for Yvonne Rosales to bring that out in the trial, to analyze, to have that forensics out there, what kind of bullets were used, what type of bullets were found in the remains of the victims, right? What casings were found? What gun did they come from? This is very, very important because more and more people are coming forward. More and more people, you have Jules Tuganon Chan, right, who was an original response team to the Walmart mass shooting. He said that he was there, firsthand experience at the Walmart mass shooting. So he could tell us in the trial. He would be one of the witnesses in a trial to the Walmart mass shooting, what he saw. And there are many that are witnesses that could tell us what they saw. And with Jules Tuganon Chan's military history, he knows what brown tip bullets look like. He knows what green tip bullets look like. He knows what M4s look like. He's experienced. So his testimony would be very, very helpful and very important in getting to the bottom of what happened in the Walmart mass shooting. And did Patrick Crucius, operate alone? If he did, where did he get brown tip bullets? Where did he get green tip bullets? If that, depending on what the forensic showed, because more and more people are coming forward and they're saying that the problem that breaks the entire narrative is the bullets. The bullets breaks the narrative, the entire narrative, not just breaks it, but shatters it, shatters the entire false narrative around the Walmart mass shooting. And that would expose Ernest Christopher Grant. We would have to look into him. That would expose his friend Donna. That would expose others that were up to no good. And where did these bullets come from? I can't help it. I can't help it. From what I know in Richard's case and the absolute experience that we have had to the levels of where they would go to cover up Richard's case, and hiding the fact that Nadal Baem, the FBI man that walked into the Walmart, the Dollar General, that was a slip. That Nadal Baem, the FBI man that walked into the Dollar General and told the cashier on camera, CCTV camera, we have it all, that Richard, she could take down the flyers, which means when you order someone to take down the flyers, and you say that you're FBI, so that means he is ordering her because he is giving her authority. He's saying, I have authority. I'm an FBI agent, and you need to take down those flyers, right? And she's like, what do you mean? Is he found? And he goes, yes, the FBI has found Richard. And, I'm making this a long story short, and because he goes on and tells more, and he's using his hands because, he's Palestinian. And so they talk a lot with their hands. I've been to Israel, and I know they talk a lot with their hands. But that's confirmed. And so he goes on to tell her that that Richard remains have been found in Mexico. Okay, that they were looking in 5 different spots in Mexico, and they found remains in Mexico. So that made this an international case. That explains why Interpol was involved. That explains why the Mexican military was involved, why the Mexican government was involved. It explains so many things why 15 plus agencies, the Department of State, um, was involved, liaison, the DHS liaison to the Department of State was involved. The whole search, which was confirmed that the search was going on there by the Department of State, by multiple people in the Department of State. That's all been confirmed. And so you have Nadal Baem, um, declaring that the search is over with authority. And then he orders her to be silent about what he had just declared, the information he had just given. Why? Why is that a secret? And then, of course, we were lied to about, and who he was kept from us, which was egregious and a dereliction of duty. That was Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. He needs to be stripped from his uniform, stripped from his stars, the CID, there. And I know that they were tampering with the files, that they were sanitizing Richard's file. And that's indication that they're trying to work locally with their criminal network, their established criminal network. And Nadal Baem is connected. Of course, he worked right behind the Dollar General where Blue Party Hall is, Blue Party Hall and Western Frontier Trading. And there's a lot of um, warehouses back there. You know, it is an interesting location. And so it's right behind where that Dollar General is. And Western Frontier Trading, is this provides um, military stuff, including bullets, to law enforcement and the military. And, you know, um, so that's been confirmed. I know. You have to take a deep breath. You have to, like go outside and scream sometimes. Um, Not that I've done that. I haven't done that. Maybe I should try doing that. Going up on a mountain and just yodeling a little bit. Now I know why they yodel. Why, with my history, my German history, all of that. Anyway, maybe I should do. Maybe you'd feel better. Maybe I'd feel better with this kind of information coming out. But I don't think it is something that we can overlook. It needed to be investigated. Where, that's why that Walmart mass shooting case needs to uh, come out and into the court, and let's look at the information, because look at the forensics, look at the bullets. Where If Patrick Crucius had brown tip bullets and green tip bullets, which you know we're being told is the real problem with the Walmart case, a main problem. I mean, I think I know lots of problems with the Walmart case, but that really shatters the whole narrative, because where would someone like Patrick Crucius, that is has a severe mental condition, where would he get those kind of bullets, right? Someone would have to provide him with those arms and with those bullets. And then, the training of it, because he's wearing the earmuffs and everything, um, and that is indicative of someone that has autism, because loud noises, autistic individuals, it's uh, loud noises really disturb them, and so you have to be very sensitive to their hearing. Um, yeah, and of course we know that the whole narrative of him being a white supremacist has already been shattered. It was shattered that day. And the news, the news lied. The news was weaponizing the Walmart mass shooting, the terrible killings there, and weaponizing it with a false narrative for political reasons to affect an election. And would they do that? Absolutely. Look what they're doing now. Look what they've done. Look what they did in Yvonne Rosales' case. They absolutely are always working politically. And they absolutely took advantage of the crisis, and they put a false narrative. The question is, who wrote the manifesto? We need to have that forensics information out there. But I think the people, and I'm so disappointed with the press, because even some journalists that you think are ethical have been running still to this day with this white supremacist, that Patrick Crucius hated Hispanic people and was out to kill them. And what the damage that Ernest Christopher Grant put out there with his fake narrative, that the El Paso Police Department said was fake, and the whole thing was fake. I shouldn't say the whole thing. Who knows what's real in that? But the narrative that it was all about a white supremacist is absolutely fake, because what the whole soda bottle thing, I can talk about that because, that's not vile and vulgar. What he did is vile and vulgar because he said he threw soda bottles at Patrick Crucius, right, to stop him from, the point blank allegations, false allegations that he was putting out there. And how do we know that those allegations against Patrick Crucius were false? And it was because when Patrick Crucius went up to the Hispanic law enforcement officer to surrender in a very kind way, right? In a very kind way. He wasn't, pointing a gun at him or anything like that. He didn't fight him or anything like that. He was very gentle, matter of fact. And when he did that, minutes later after this so-called mass shooting, which, absolutely was a mass shooting, but the narrative has been shattered because Patrick Crucius had no blood on him. There was no blood on him. He surrendered and he didn't have blood on him. And am I allowed to say that? I should say the red stuff. The red stuff of life, right? The life is in the blood, right? His shoes were sparkling white. The soles of his shoes sparkling white. So what Ernest Christopher Grant did was absolutely, totally criminal. Totally criminal. And he, of course, was arrested, but because he had warrants out for his arrest, not for that, for other criminal activity. And those that put out that warrant didn't even want to extradite him out of the White House because, he was arrested by the Secret Service. So and that's part of the Walmart case, y'all. This is all part of the Walmart case. So, of course, you have Richard's case being part of the Walmart case. You have the questions about the bullets, the brown tip bullets and the green tip bullets, and those questions, and the racism charges of of the false narratives being part of the case. But you also have this operative. I don't know what else to call him. He seems to be an operative because he was the media sweetheart. They absolutely carried him everywhere to spew his hate and his lies and his damage. The uh, and it's violent. You know, his testimony was violence against our society, our the absolutely the El Paso community. It was violence against that. It's hate speech. It really is hate speech, and they were trying to pin the hate speech on um, on Patrick Crucius. But Patrick Crucius, when he was even in court, and I'm not saying he was not part of it. He's part of the Walmart mass shooting. He's part of it, and we need to try him and get to the truth. Um, but they don't want it to go forward. 5 years, over 5 years, and they're still, you know, how is this going to go forward? You know, because the very people that are in charge of moving this forward, many of them are up to no good, are up to no good, and so you've got this election interference. You've got this hate speech coming from some operative that the media disseminated to the world, okay? Because the Walmart mass shooting is international because a German and Mexican nationals, German national, Mexican nationals, were murdered uh, in the Walmart mass shooting. So, you know, and we don't even know what day, we don't know what time, we don't know because the autopsies were done by Mario Raskin Ortiz, who is illegal and he's up to no good. And we know from more and more people coming forward that there are discrepancies with the autopsy reports. And so the truth of that whole Walmart mass shooting that was used for many different reasons. But Richard's case came before that. And if Richard's case gets solved, if they start making arrests, it absolutely is part of the Walmart case. And that's when you look at the tenure of Yvonne Rosales, which is very, very important to look. She's going to go down in history. You know, I think Richard's going to go down in history, absolutely. And Yvonne Rosales will go down in history because it's her tenure and her bravery. And, you know, it's interesting because, and she'll probably say this, it's these unlikely individuals that God uses to be brave. And it was her bravery to become a DA, to take on that office after Jaime Esparza, right? Who had that position decades. He was very established. And for Yvonne Rosales to take on that office with the likes of John Briggs, right? John Briggs and Bill Hicks, friend, right? And them absolutely willing to violate all kinds of laws to interfere with her duly elected position. And we have the open records for it. You know, and you can get the open records for it. All communications between John Briggs and Bill Hicks and Justin Underwood and Bob Moore and also Omar Carmona. So you can go ahead and ask for those open records. They work for you. They work for you. And what that shows is that they were scheming. They were scheming to take her down. Why? One, she was looking into Richard's case. Two, she wanted the Walmart mass shooting to be brought to trial. Three, she was had an investigation open to the El Paso Community Foundation, uh, monies, that how they were distributing the victims fund from the Walmart mass shooting, because there were discrepancies. Um, and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia was the cause of those discrepancies, because she was not the legitimate widow of the Walmart victim, and that it has been confirmed, and we've looked through all of that. And she targeted Richard's case. She targeted, um, and I wish I could explain more of how she targeted, to obstruct justice in Richard's case, and soon, I think soon I'll be able to explain to you how that happened. And of course, her relationship with Leilani Hart, also targeting Richard's case by unauthorized access, tampering with his files, also being used. Here she is, a prime suspect in the murder of Richard, because her son is Richard's platoon leader. And of course, she's, in this um, sexual relationship with her family member, who's a CID agent in the Fort Bliss CID office. Um, and Richard wanted to be a CID agent, right? On and a soldier on Fort Bliss. I mean, put it all together. He's making complaints. He's a whistleblower, and here Leilani Hart, who not only has these kind of connections with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, with Tavita Nusa, with her son Dallas Hart, with her husband James Hart, who she's now divorced from, but with others, right? Like DES, Thomas Kane, um, they, all of them had conflicts of interest to the, I mean, they were just so conflicted. They were conflicted, y'all, and up to no good. And but not only that, but Bob Moore uses the very prime suspect in the murder, the capital murder case, the premeditated capital murder case of Richard, uses her as a source to obstruct justice and retaliate against a witness in Richard's case. Now, I don't know of any other case that has happened in. That is just a wowzer. A wowzer. So she's an unreal, and then on top of that, she's a confirmed convicted criminal, right? With this bragging and giving it out, that she has unauthorized access. And hey, I've got my CID number, I've got my FBI number of my complaint, my confession. And, and that's how we got those numbers, and they've been confirmed. And of course, we talked to the notary and confirmed it that way also. So, so we have all this information, and then we have the Mercedes, right? The Mercedes from New Mexico. That so all this information that's coming in, more and more people coming in, that is connecting the Mercedes for us with Nadal Baem. And then we have the LLCs that connect it all together even more. And this is not a coincidence then, right? This is not a coincidence. And then, of course, we have, could Richard be talking about them when it comes to the trafficking? And does Leilani Hart have a relationship with Clem Coward, right? Does she have a relationship with Major General Clem Coward? Because, see, from our military standpoint, which we didn't have much experience ever on the law enforcement side, the DA side, the El Paso Police Department, all those other agencies, we didn't have much experience with that. we have clean records, right? We have clean records. We don't have experience with that. And but we do have experience with the military side. And with the military, and this is why, I can absolutely tell you that the generals, especially involved in with us and in our son's case, um, have committed crimes so big, and they have conflicts of interest so big that they should not be able. I mean, they need to be arrested, right? They need to be arrested, um, and that's what I'm so sure about, that I'll come on a live stream and say it, because you can't have a soldier killed on Fort Bliss unalived, right? Unalived and no body. Um, you can't have hundreds of thousands of children going through your base and then end up, and they're unaccounted for, right? So they're unaccompanied coming on, which they're so vulnerable. That's such the most vulnerable people. They are totally vulnerable. And they're unaccounted for? I mean, think about that. And you've got the vulnerable soldiers at the VA also, in this case, being exploited. So the evidence is there that this group is willing to be careless with the most vulnerable of us and to exploit them. And the only way that that is possible is if the commanding general of Fort Bliss is up to no good. The only way that what happened to Richard could happen is with the DES Thomas Kane and Clem Coward and the commanding officer at the time. Well, Clem Coward was the 32nd ADCOM. He was Richard's general. With the G3 Bradford Bugado. And there's more. There's more because of what we have found out in our investigation with Michael Ruggiero. Okay, that's more and more people are coming out, and we've connected dots through that. And the only way is if that they are engaged in criminal activity and they're covering up. And so absolutely they had a motive to murder Richard. That's the point. They had a motive. And then of course the cover up, the timeline and all the connections that we got at the very beginning corroborate what I'm telling you. And, it's so heartbreaking. Because the people that live in that beautiful city, El Paso, the service members that work on Fort Bliss, huge. They know that there's security issues, that there's security breaches. You had a 14-year-old girl being, pimped out while living for months on Fort Bliss in the barracks. In the barracks. Right? You had testimony after testimony how terrible it was in the emergency intake center for these children. You've had testimony and testimony and testimony how horrible what's going on Fort Bliss. You've had murders and very violent crimes going on. No, that is indicative of failed leadership. Failed leadership. And, we lived in Ireland, as most of you know, and, I love history. We love history. and you look at the history of St. Patrick, what did he do to save? Because, many of you don't know this, but St. Patrick was forcibly brought to the island of Ireland as a slave. He was kidnapped from his family, um, a Christian family, a Christian family that was an incredible Christian family. He was, in his confessions, you can read his confessions, um, and it's called St. Patrick's Confessions, uh, that he was a little bit of a rebel because he was coming from this Christian family and he got kidnapped and he was a slave to the Druids. And he was just a child and he learned the language and he was out in the fields with the sheep. And if you've been to Ireland, if it's they have the jet stream, and so it never really freezes. So it's really ideal island for sheep, um, for cattle and sheep. And if you have sheep, you know that sheep are so sensitive, and that if there's dogs, they're so susceptible to attacks by dogs, and all the dogs have to do is bark at them, and they'll fall over dead by a heart attack. Sheep are very sensitive creatures. Numerous times I would come to our property, and I'd have to call, my cousin and say, "Oh my gosh, the dogs were here and got dead sheep." Um, it's a real problem, and uh, for St. Patrick to sit, and be a shepherd, absolutely, we got the whole understanding of, um, and we, to be honest with you, we were kind of a shepherd with our cousin because when he had cattle also, um, and it's such hard work, right? It's such hard work to be a farmer today. And, so we would keep an eye out on the cattle and the sheep around our property. Um, always looking out and counting them and, calling them right away if there was a problem. So, they just need a looking after. And for St. Patrick to do that, um, to be a slave, and escaped, went back home, realized the value of his faith, um, and garnered great faith. So much faith, he became a bishop, and he took his nephew, St. Mel, and went back to Ireland. And you might not know this, but in Longford, County Longford, where we lived, there is a cathedral called St. Mel's, and that cathedral was where Mel Gibson's mother attended, and that's why Mel Gibson, even though he didn't really live there, he's Australian, because a lot of Irish go to Australia. Um, he is named after St. Mel, the nephew of St. Patrick. And the point that I want to make is the reason why they went back was to go directly to the leadership, the Druid leadership, which was another, we lived right in the backyard. I could see it from my kitchen window, from Arda Mountain. And you can look it up, on the map, Longford County, Arda Mountain. And it was walking distance to the old cathedral ruins of St. Mel's. Um, and that was a high Druid point where they went to, and they went directly to the leadership. because if they knew they could tell the leadership to stop the criminal activity, right? And you could say, oh, that's their religion or whatever. No, murdering children, exploiting children is criminal. Absolutely criminal. It's evil. It's evil. And so that's how St. Patrick changed Ireland. And, you know, our church has a a big part of our church is in Ecuador. And these are the mountain people of Ecuador. They have numerous communities, and their community, the individual communities, whoever is leading it, they move as a community, as the leader says. So leaders are so important. And why do we even have these generals that we give everything to? If they are just going to contribute, participate, allow the criminal activity on our beautiful military installations and allow them to go to ruin and harm our soldiers and harm the community around the military installation. And that's my point. We need to go to the leadership. We need to go to Bill Hicks. We need to go to Jaime Esparza. We need to go to the judges. We need to go to the generals. And we need to call them out because it's the leadership. Whether they can go and arrest any of these small participants doing very bad things, but if they're not getting tried, if Patrick Crucius is just allowed to sit in isolation for 5 years and there's no trial, if these criminals are making plea deals and there's no trial, then there's no criminal justice system in El Paso, and that's why the crime gets worse and worse, and they can operate with impunity. And here you have gangs coming in, and in Aurora, Colorado, we were talking about that today because we have some people that have family members there that they're taking over whole apartment complexes, and when they come in, they just exploit, they just harm, and they will forcibly make you go along with whatever they're doing. That's slavery. That's slavery. And to try to take over school buses and, just do their criminal activity with impunity. That's a huge problem. So a couple days ago, when we got the communication from General Taylor, it was so upsetting. He is so not supposed to be there. He has to be absolutely removed very quickly. All these generals, they are not up to the task. They are failed leaders. Failed. They're not even leaders because he doesn't even have an understanding of how to even introduce himself. And what kind of case this is. It's like he's cowering behind the criminal. Whatever you say, criminal, whatever you say. And our son's remains were last seen on Fort Bliss. That's where they were last. He can't even introduce himself properly. I mean, if I put up that communication, it is so embarrassing to the war college, to our broader military leadership. It is to our diplomacy. It is so embarrassing, and it's criminal. And he can't. How can he get stars? How can the Senate Arms Committee give such a man leadership authority? And and I know, okay, you can say, oh, it's nepotism, oh, it's all the corruption, it's all the, that they're, uh, you know, absolutely. So we have a lot to address, a lot to address. And nothing is too big for God. We had a great sermon today, and it was about um, the lepers, the 10 lepers that Jesus said to them, go to your priests so that you will be healed. And on the way that the lepers went to the priest, before they even got there, they were healed. And the one leper, seeing that he was healed, ran back to Jesus to fall down on his knees and give his thanks, saying, thank you so much. And he goes, I thought you were 10 of you. Why are you alone? Right? And he goes, go in peace. Your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. And so our sermon was on that theme of how can that be? My faith has healed me. Your faith can heal you. The leper's faith healed the leper. It wasn't Jesus. I mean, and so our priest was going through all of these verses and saying, hey, can we even understand this? That Jesus always says, go, your faith has healed you. So what does this mean? And, I don't want to go into this long sermon, but it means we must hold on to our faith. We must walk forward in our faith. Our faith in who? Our faith, and in my situation, my faith is in Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. So I have to walk in that faith, meaning his will be done, not my will be done. And that faith has power. Has power. And if St. Patrick, would never have went back to, as an adult, as a trained, now more mature, but knowing the language, knowing what was going on over there, if he had never went back to Ireland to confront the Druid kings, think about that. His faith moved a whole nation away from a very evil culture. Evil acts. And that's why the Irish celebrate every year. And the world celebrates. The world celebrates. Sometimes Boston celebrates St. Patrick's Day more than Ireland. I don't want to say that. But, it's because it's a celebration of faith, of the power of faith. And there's so many stories about that. That was so great. And it really gave me a lot of peace today, especially after going, oh my gosh, we just got rid of Eisenhower. I didn't get rid of Eisenhower, but Eisenhower moved on. And we're like hoping, we had to deal with Bernabe, deal with these terrible, terrible criminal generals. And now we get a general that at least Eisenhower knew how to introduce himself. At least Sean Bernabe had some kind of diplomacy, even though they're very evil. But now we hit rock bottom with this guy, I'm afraid. So, you know, oh, that was so frustrating. And thank you for listening to me vent that day. Um, because we want Richard's remains. And it's kind of like the frustration that El Paso has felt with the Walmart mass shooting. They want the trial, they want the answers to how this could happen. And, so I can tell you this that one or the other will expose so much because they're totally connected. And they're connected because this established criminal group, um, is involved in both, is involved in more than both. And for El Paso to free itself from the chains of this criminal group, um, exploiting and the Fort Bliss and El Paso and the criminal justice system there and the politics there. Really pray that Yvonne Rosales comes back. Her time is getting so short. She needs to make her move now. But I also did, through all the people coming forward more and more, they absolutely have said there is something very weird going on in El Paso because Attorney Montoya and Bill Hicks are not even campaigning. They're like, it's just really, really eerie what's going on. So if you can corroborate that, um, but that's the information that we're getting. It's just not like a normal election cycle. They're not really campaigning. So, because Bill Hicks is a usurper, and Montoya knows that because we wrote him. We wrote him and we sent him all of the evidence that Bill Hicks is a usurper of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. And, you have to say it 3 or 4 times, but you have to say it over and over again because he is. And I was asked, what is a usurper? It's someone that unlawfully takes this office without legal authority. And he has no legal authority, and that's why the DA's office is in the state it is in. Um, reading through what the media was trying to frame Yvonne Rosales for, 25% down, and there are attorneys in the office, and everything's going to be gummed up or whatever. Well, Bill Hicks is, I think he's only working at 50%, if that. At that, and then he's working with no authority, and that's even worse. So talk about a gummed up. He's really totally destroyed the criminal justice system right there in the DA's office, right there. And so that's why people are coming forward, because I think the courthouse has had enough, and law enforcement have had enough, and lawyers have had enough. And so we'll see. I think that Yvonne Rosales will have the support now. She needs the support from law enforcement. She cannot just walk in by herself. She needs the support, because that the media is not going to be um, for her. And that's a real problem. So even trying to do what's right, because she's the holdover candidate. She is the legitimate district attorney for El Paso right now. And and the media is not even doing their job. Um, they're not doing their job. And so that is the real problem. If the media was doing their job, so please use your social media to spread the word. Be the media that the media refuses to be. And that's really, really important. And that's what we have done every night. Um, be the media what the media refuses to be, to make sure that Richard's case does not go into cold case. And we achieved that um, with the declaration of death. It's not a cold case. It is a premeditated capital murder case with, you know, however long it takes, because there's no statute of limitations in this case now. And and of course, we know that the courts are uh, very, very conflicted. They're very conflicted in today's world, and so are the attorneys, very conflicted. And so we are making sure that we have all of our T's crossed and all of our I's dotted, um, to get accountability. And I'm telling you, that Walmart case with those bullets, hearing about that again and having to think about Glendon Oakley Jr., um, and he was found dead April 8th, 2020, just before Richard was murdered. So it's not just about Richard's death. Other people suffer too. So God's given us no other choice but to stand up against the evil, and we can do that with faith. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you, and I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.